Since last Rosh Hashanah, this living planet has traveled all the way around the sun, spinning 365 times on its axis, cycling through one set of seasons. Think for a moment of all that has happened since we last came together to hear the blast of the shofar a year ago. Think of the changes. Think of the learning, losses, accomplishments, the mistakes, the milestone moments. Think of what has changed in your family, your job, home, your body. Think of what has happened in our community, in our country, in our world. In this season, it's customary to engage in a process known as Cheshbon HaNefesh, an accounting of the soul. But over the years, I've found that it's also important to take time on Rosh Hashanah to do what I would call a Cheshbon HaOlam, an accounting of what we have together lived through in our world. Last year, you might have heard me recount the major events of the year, the weather events and scientific discoveries, the political twists and turns, the wars, and economic developments and memorable sports moments. I was planning to do that with you this evening, but then, as I gathered those details, I changed my mind. The events of this global year, 5784, make for a heavy litany. So instead of looking back tonight in detail at the year that we have lived through, I thought it might be more important to remind us of how this season can give us hope for a better way forward. That's what Teshuvah, repentance, is all about. But still, we have to start where we are. And where we are is terrifying. The stakes feel impossibly high. The fate of Israel, the United States election, the survival of humanity in the face of climate change. Who shall live and who shall die? Words of prayer we encounter every Rosh Hashanah don't seem so over the top and melodramatic this year. We are feeling our fragility, our vulnerability this year collectively, as Jews, as Americans, as humans. Will we do what we must do to give future generations a future? Over the next 10 days, our purpose will be to do the inner work to get us closer to answering, yes, we can, we will do what we must to steer ourselves and our world toward a better future. That process of teshuvah, turning ourselves back to the right path, is never easy or instantaneous. It involves a painful reckoning with the truth of what is broken in ourselves and in our world, our mistakes, our sins. And instead of putting up defenses, we are meant to adopt an attitude of contrition and remorse. Instead of deflecting and blaming, we are called to take responsibility. You might think that, therefore, this whole tshuva thing is just a huge bummer. And the fact that our people turn out for these holidays more than any other is some kind of collective masochism. Come, let us wallow in all of the ways we are bad. Let us recount together the reasons for despair. But no, actually, I'm here to tell you, the concept of teshuvah is profoundly hopeful. Teshuvah doesn't work by minimizing the realness of terrible harms. It can't undo the past. But it does give us a way forward after profound wrongs, after the terrible things we humans do to each other. One of the most humbling and vexing aspects of the human condition is that we actually do not know the future. And in that state of unknowing, there is room for profound transformation. We are not condemned to repeat our mistakes. We can change. We do heal. That possibility is as much our inheritance as our long, sad history of cruelty and selfishness. In the Talmud, Pesachim 54a, it's taught, 7 things were created before the world was created, and these are they: Torah, and Teshuvah, and the Garden of Eden, and Gehenna, and the throne of glory, and the temple, and the name of the Messiah. Let's just lift out Teshuvah for the moment. It's woven deep into the fabric of creation, according to this teaching, as if God knew we would mess up and would therefore have to have some way to go on. There would have to be a way to recover and to learn. Teshuvah is that way. The idea is that if we can find the strength to face the problems honestly, if we are willing to name the harm and apologize and make restitution and learn our lesson and change ourselves enough that we can do better the next time, then we will find forgiveness. And we can have another chance, and things can get better. And it's a lot. It's hard, but it's possible. In moments like this one, when the wounds are so deep and challenges seem insurmountable, it can be tempting to give up, tempting to let despair paralyze us from even trying to do all that hard work. And that's why I like to think of hope as a practice. Hope isn't just some state of mind you stumble into if you're lucky. Hope, like gratitude, can be a practice. Practicing hope involves remembering to pay attention to the good things as well as the scary things. It involves remembering our own stories of healing and resilience in our own lives and the lives of our ancestors. Studying moments in history when people got things right. Think of the blessings of this past year for a moment. The times you made good decisions, shared the joy of a new baby or a wedding or the satisfaction of completing a job well done. I think of those hidden features deeply buried in the newspaper. The story of a man who carried a stranger down the mountain when she was injured. The story of a recovering endangered species or a scientific breakthrough that will save countless lives. I think of the amazing blessings at B'nai this past year. Dozens of new members and meaningful, joyful gatherings, plans to upgrade the building, a revitalized community retreat. Hope is not the denial of how much is broken. It's remembering that goodness is just as real as evil. It's a willingness to work for change and a kind of faith that even if people have yet to get it right, we still could. Hope is the positive engine of Teshuvah in that way, turning towards the good rather than turning away from the bad, and being up for the hard work of transformation. My friend Rabbi Brent Bodek shared some thoughts on this with me recently, and I wanted to pass them on. He says, optimists think it will all be fine without our involvement. Pessimists take the opposite view. Both are cop-outs that excuse us from the hard work of acting. Hope is what bridges the gap between what is and what might yet be. To live with hope is to embrace the responsibility we have to make things better. Hope is the belief that what we do matters. It is not a substitute for action. It is the basis for action. So whether you come to this Rosh Hashanah troubled by the war in the Middle East, or the election here at home, or the unhoused living on our streets, Whether you find yourself focusing on interpersonal mistakes or collective catastrophes, this season offers a way forward that is authentic and hopeful, even if the problems are bigger than one person can solve on their own, even if the heartbreak is deep. The invitation is to keep trying, to keep having faith that our words and actions matter. So I want to close with a passage by the historian Howard Zinn, whose words speak to the kind of moment I think we find ourselves in. And it's a long piece, but it's very worthwhile. It comes from a book called A Power Governments Cannot Suppress. In this world of war and injustice, how does a person manage to stay socially engaged, committed to the struggle, and remain healthy without burning out or becoming resigned or cynical? I am totally confident, not that the world will get better, but that we should not give up the game before all the cards have been played. There's a tendency to think that what we see in the present moment will continue. We forget how often we have been astonished by the sudden crumbling of institutions, by extraordinary changes in people's thoughts, by unexpected eruptions of rebellion against tyrannies, by the quick collapse of systems of power that seemed invincible. What leaps out from history of the past 100 years is its utter unpredictability. Looking at this catalog of huge surprises, it's clear that the struggle for justice should never be abandoned because of the apparent overwhelming power of those who have the guns and the money and who seem invincible in their determination to hold on to it. That apparent power has again and again proved vulnerable to human qualities less measurable than bombs and dollars. Moral fervor, determination, unity, organization, sacrifice, wit, ingenuity, courage, patience. Revolutionary change does not come as one cataclysmic moment, beware of such moments, but as an endless succession of surprises, moving zigzag toward a more decent society. We don't have to engage in grand heroic actions to participate in this process of change. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can quietly become a power no government can suppress, a power that can transform the world. We need hope. To be hopeful in bad times is not being foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of competition and cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, it energizes us to act and raises at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act, in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.